Grab your Bible and a Diet Mountain Dew because it's time for the Brother Byron podcast. Listen in as Brother Byron brings you thought-provoking insights from his 30-plus years in the ministry. Now here's Brother Byron.
Hello, friends. Brother Byron back with another Brother Byron podcast. Happy Friday. It's February 28th, 2025. It's the last day of February. That's hard to believe. Mary and I was having breakfast this morning and we were talking about it, and I pulled up my Christmas countdown app, and there's 299 days until Christmas. So I hope you're already started your Christmas shopping. We had a great service at church Wednesday evening. Good spirit, good singing. We studied Romans chapter 1 and verse 8, which Paul writes, "First, I thank my God through Jesus Christ for you all, that your faith is spoken of throughout the whole world." And we placed our attention on that church of faith and how they were known throughout the whole world for their faith. And I mentioned how I believe one of the biggest problems with the church today, especially here in the United States, is that we have lost sight of the purpose of the church. And you can go and listen to that message if you want. It's on Sermon Audio, YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and it's just called The Faithful Church. So I'm not going to go through the whole message, but we were talking about some things in there about faith and sharing our faith and the freedom that we have here to do that. And during that message, I brought up the fact that there are millions of Christians all over the world who are being persecuted for their faith. Some 300 and something million people estimated by opendoors.org that are being heavily persecuted because of their faith in Christ. Of course, that's not here in the U.S. Right now, we have freedom, but it is becoming very bad for Christians all over the world. Now, I brought up, of course, North Korea being the most dangerous place, according to Open Doors, to be a Christian. They're number one on the list. And I mentioned the I believe it's called Anti-Reactionary thought laws that they have on their books, where it's illegal to be a Christian. It's even illegal to talk about being a Christian, and it's become illegal to even think about it. And that is scary. And that is not just happening in North Korea, but it's happening all over the world. Interesting enough, the same night that I preached that message, I was scrolling through my Facebook feed, and one of my missionary friends in England, he shared a video, which I'm going to share with you here in just a moment. It's only about a minute and a half, I believe, of something that should really give you a wake-up call. But we have really become like George Orwell's novel, 1984. And he wrote that in 1949. How in the world he knew 75 years ago what things were going to be like today, I don't know. But it has become a dystopian world that we are living in, where it's becoming illegal to even think certain thoughts. Let me play you that video. This is an interview, part of an interview. It's not the whole interview, but it's just a minute and a half of a lady. Her name is Gillian Mackay, who is a member and spokesperson for the Scottish Parliament. And this is concerning Scotland's new buffer zone law. It's also the same law in the all over the UK. Just hit the wrong button there for a second, but let me go over to this screen and let you listen to this. Here we are.
The accusation that even private prayer within your own home could amount to breaking the law. I mean, it's stretching it, but it's not wrong, is it?
It's absolute nonsense.
Is it? I'm looking at a letter that the government sent to householders.
Nowhere in it does it say
zones.
private prayer.
No, but what it does say is that the activities in a private place like a house in these zones could be an offence if they can be seen or heard within the zone and are done intentionally or recklessly. Now, if you're telling me that prayer can be an offence outside a clinic, if you're inside your own house in that zone, theoretically, the law could be applied to you, couldn't it? I'm just trying to work out if there's any way in which J.D. Vance could be right.
I should be really clear. Praying in of itself is not an offence under this bill. We are not banning prayer under the Act.
Performative prayer. If you're standing at a window with your hands together in front of your face in that classic kind of, that classic image of prayer, if you're standing at a window so people can see you, then could it be interpreted as an offence?
That then depends on who's passing the window and whether anybody can. So
he's not wrong, is he, J.D. Vance?
No,
he's not wrong.
He is wrong because I don't know anyone that can pray loudly or performatively enough to be seen from outside their own house.
Okay. So there you heard it right from her own mouth. When asked if it would be illegal for someone to pray within their own house if they're in this buffer zone. And she said, and I quote, "That depends on who's passing the window and whether or not anyone can actually hear." So what does that tell you? Yeah, if your house is within 150 meters of this buffer zone that they have, and that's what it is, 150 meters from any abortion clinic or any other place they're going to designate to be in the buffer zone. If your home is there and you open your window and you're praying and you're doing it in such a way people can see you praying and know that's what you're doing, then technically, yes, you could be arrested for that. And, she went on to say, which was funny, "I don't know anyone that can pray loudly or performatively enough to be seen from outside their own house." As my missionary friend said in his post when he shared this, she obviously has never read the book of Daniel. Very similar to that, actually. Back in that day when Nebuchadnezzar, he commanded that no one could worship or bow down to any other god besides him and his statue, and were banned from praying to any other god. And so we know Daniel 3 times a day went up in his window, opened it up, and sure enough, that's what he did. And he paid the price, but God protected him. So as I mentioned Wednesday evening, I was talking about a lady who had been arrested for praying inside her head outside of an abortion clinic. Now, I wrongly stated that it was in Canada. I got mixed up because I was thinking of something else that happened in Canada, which I'll talk about here in just a moment. But this lady was actually in Birmingham, England. And this is, it happened in 2022 is when this began. But her name is Isabel Vaughan-Spruce. And she was standing outside of a closed abortion clinic. Keep that in your mind. This abortion clinic was closed at the time, and she was praying on the sidewalk outside in her head. She was not praying loudly. She wasn't being audible to anyone, but people reported her to the police because they thought she was praying in her head. And sure enough, so they come with 6 police officers to question her, and she was arrested for violating the UK's buffer zone, which bans all influencing within 150 meters of an abortion clinic. Now, for you in the U.S., we don't use the metric system. That's 492 feet, just under 500 feet. So within approximately 500 foot of an abortion clinic, you're not allowed to even pray in your own mind. Let that sink in for a minute. Let me show you this. I'm not going to play the entire thing, but I'm going to play the first couple of minutes so you can see what I'm talking about. Let me switch back over to this other screen here real quick.
Okay, thank you. Before I ask you any questions about what's going on today, I have to caution you, which is just your rights, which is you do not have to say anything. It may harm your defence if you do not mention one question, something which you later on in court, anything you do so may be given you. What are you here for today?
Physically, I'm just standing here.
Okay. Why here of all places? I know you don't live nearby.
But this is an abortion centre.
Okay. That's why you're stood. Is you standing here part of the protest?
No, I'm not protesting.
Are you praying?
I might be praying in my head out loud.
So I'll ask you once more. Will you?
Again, if you didn't understand her, she said, "I'm praying in my head, not out loud."
You voluntarily come with us now to the police station for me to ask you some questions about today and other days where there are allegations that you've broken public spaces protection order.
If I've got a choice, then no.
Okay, well then you're under arrest on suspicion of failing to comply with the public spaces protection order, which is
You see that? He said that she's under arrest for suspicion of this, suspicion of violating this law, where she's only praying inside of her own head.
the Antisocial Behaviour Crime and Policing Act 2014. Now, of course, you do not have to say anything. It may harm your defence if you do not mention when questioned something which you later on in court, anything you do say may be given evidence. Do you understand the caution?
I do, yes.
Your arrest is necessary in order for the prompt and effective investigation into the offence. What that means is so that I can ask you some questions and also to protect vulnerable people, mainly service users in the clinic. Okay? So you'll accompany us now to the police station. You get booked in front of the custody sergeant, and then if you want a solicitor, you can have a solicitor on the limb for you. Okay? I don't intend to handcuff you, but obviously my colleague will search you because you're going to get into a police car and make sure you don't have anything that you can harm us or you can use to. Okay?
Let's see how bad it has gotten. Right there in England. You have to remember that at one time England was like the capital for Christianity. Bible preaching. Charles Spurgeon, we're talking about, a place where large churches and Christianity was so prevalent. And here we have people being arrested for praying inside their own head. It is unbelievable what things have gotten to. And this lady had actually been arrested. She's been arrested 2 times for doing this, praying outside of an abortion clinic. She was charged with 4 counts of silent prayer. She's been accused of intimidation and protesting simply because she was standing there praying within her own head. In other words, she committed a thought crime because she's been thinking private thoughts about the wickedness of abortion, and she was arrested. Now, if she had been thinking about something else like the price of groceries, they would not have arrested her. She could have simply told them right then, to avoid arrest. She could have said, no, I'm just standing here. I'm not thinking about anything but, the price of groceries. She could have lied and never been arrested. But because she admitted that she was praying, that's what got her arrested. Well, thank the Lord, she has been acquitted on all these charges. And in fact, she turned around and sued the West Midlands Police Department over these arrests, and she won. She won a settlement of 13,000 British pounds, which is equivalent to our $16,372.59 US dollars for all you folks here in the US. But if you read the acquittal and you read this fine, or not the fine, but the payment that they had to pay out, they did not admit any wrongdoing. In fact, they doubled down and without any admission of liability. And according to recent reports, the UK government is going to, quote, strengthen silent prayer crackdown by expressly labeling it as criminal in upcoming buffer zone guidance rules. So, listen, this stuff is real. Now, here in the U.S., currently we have freedom of religion. We don't have these types of laws on our books, and we're free to express our beliefs, whether it's in our head or out loud. I can go stand on the street corner and preach. Now, there's some places where you're restricted from doing certain things, disturbing the peace and such they can come up with. But I can go downtown to Market Square, stand in the square and open a King James Bible and preach. I can I can pray out loud. I can do whatever I want. And nobody's going to arrest me. Now, they may come and question you. And if people start shouting and protesting, which they likely will do in downtown Knoxville, then the police will get involved. And if there's a disturbance, things can happen. But despite all that, we have freedom of religion right now. And it appears our current president is pro-Christian, but do not become comfortable with that. All it takes is one bad law, and things can quickly change right here in the good old U.S. of A. Now, we're already seeing signs of it coming. The handwriting is on the wall, and much like in Orwell's novel, 1984, we're seeing signs of oppression, the government trying to control every aspect of our life. Now, that's what's going on there in the UK, but here in the US as well, the former administration, they were passing laws that was really cracking down on religious rights and laws and anything conservative, how they were controlling and manipulating the media against conservatives. So we're already seeing that oppression going on. Surveillance and privacy. Big Brother, that's where that term come from, was Orwell's book. But Big Brother is watching you, whether you know it or not. If you have a smartphone, they're listening to every word you say. Even if you're not on the phone talking, your microphone is picking up your conversation and they can listen in. Your smartphone, your smart TV. We've got about 4 or 5 smart TVs at our house. And through that as well, they can listen in and survey you that way. I use I'm not going to say her name, the Alexa, because she'll ask me what I want. They can listen right through that device right there as well. So surveillance and privacy is a big thing, and manipulation of the truth. Now, I mentioned there about the media manipulating and looking at conservatives and banning conservative conversation online. So the legacy news media is controlling all that. Now, they're having a tough time right now because of the current administration, how they are going after those folks. And of course, a lot of these liberal news media organizations are hurting. People quit watching. These left wingers, people have seen now all the lies, and so they're turning them off. They're not watching, so they're firing all their hosts, and a lot of things are closing down and such. And that is a wonderful thing. But I've got to tell you, and I'm conservative. I consider myself right wing, typically vote Republican. But I also do not agree with a lot of the so-called right wing news outlets. Fox News. Listen, be careful. Don't take that for the gospel truth. They're manipulative, and we see that. So be careful who you're listening to. They will manipulate you and cause you to start believing a certain way. And listen, my advice is for Christians to just stop watching these news outlets. Quit listening to these podcasts, these liberal and conservative podcasts that are consistently and constantly just trying to get you worked up. I know so many people, they stay riled up and worked up all the time over all this stuff, and they are always listening to these media outlets, whether it's podcast or the news, whatever it is. And oh man, it's just, I'm so tired of it. So I advise Christians to just quit. I mean, there's no need for it. And also, we see signs losing our individuality. Just like on Orwell's novel, there's a push for everyone to conform, to everyone be the same. They don't want anybody to have individual thoughts and ideas. Everybody needs to think the same. And I mentioned that coexist bumper sticker that you see on some folks' cars, and what a big lie that is. There's no coexisting between non-believers and believers and such. Look, we need to have individuality, people with their own thoughts and ideas. And this is a country where that has always been our freedom. I will allow you to believe whatever you want. I mean, I will stand for you, whether you believe the same way I do or not. And I expect the same from you. And I'll pay you the respect for that. I'm not going to try to beat you down because you don't believe the way I do. I'll pray for you and pray that the Lord will change your heart. But, you have the freedom and the right to do that. And so, listen, psychological control, that's the end goal there. When you're being controlled by someone else, eventually, like in Orwell's novel, old Winston, the main character there, he become completely broken, and his individuality was destroyed, and he became part of the machine. He loved then Big Brother and was all for him by the end of the novel. And that is the danger. When you can constantly are bombarded with this, you're being controlled psychologically, your individuality is being lost, and the truth has been manipulated, and you succumb to those lies. And then with the government's control, the oppression, the surveillance, and everything controlling you, eventually what happens is you give in or you give over, and that's the danger. So our neighbors in Canada, our northern neighbors, they've passed extremely aggressive anti-Christian laws. And if you remember, if you kept up with the news back when the COVID crackdowns were happening, or sheltering, or whatever it was, the term's escaping me right now, where you have to be shut up. Anyhow, it'll come to me here in a minute, I'm sure. But when all that was going on, they were making it illegal to assemble together in churches, and when a pastor would, or even speak out against it, that was a hate speech. They were arresting pastors and preachers for preaching from the Bible and assembling together. And I don't know if you've heard about this, but the most recent thing, this 16-year-old boy, his name is Joshua Alexander, arrested outside of his high school. He was going to a Catholic high school, although in the interviews I've watched with him, he said he's not Catholic. That's just the school he goes to. But a Catholic high school where he expressed his biblical beliefs in same-sex marriage, being against it, and transgenderism. He spoke out against it, and he was giving out Bibles at school. Well, people called the police. What happened next? 16-year-old boy arrested, handcuffed, put in a car, taken to jail for expressing his religious beliefs. And listen, it's only going to get worse. The Apostle Paul saw it coming over 2,000 years ago. He wrote to Timothy in his last letters there in 2 Timothy 3, verses 1 through 5. Paul said, "This know also, that in the last days perilous times shall come. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God, having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. From such turn away." Paul saw it coming. He warned Timothy, listen, this time's coming. It's here. It's came. And it's still here. And it's not going anywhere for the foreseeable future. My fear right now, my biggest fear, is that the majority of Christians here in the United States, they have no idea of what's going on all around us. and they're only Christians in name and not in practice. Now, I may have said this several times in the past, but the Roman Catholics have it right when they say they're either a practicing Catholic or a non-practicing. And I believe the Jews may say it, Jewish or non-practicing Jew. We need to start saying that. We're either we're a Christian or a non-practicing Christian. And most people are non-practicing Christians. Being a Christian means you're a follower of Christ, that you imitate him. You're a little imitator of him. Sadly, most people that claim to be a Christian do not imitate Christ. They have no thoughts of sharing the gospel or living a Christian life, and we see the results of it. Look around you. That's what's happened all over the world. How awful to think that one day right here in the U.S. it could become illegal for us to even think inside our own head about the Lord Jesus, to even think about the Bible verses, to even think differently than what the government wants us to, or even society. Listen, when society decides something is wrong or right, and you disagree with it, well, they're going to come out for you with the pitchforks and the fire. Yeah, you're the elephant man running through town from these folks. So if we're not able to express our religious beliefs or share our faith, what a sad day that will be. And truthfully, that's what I see coming. If things don't change, we don't know what the next administration is going to be like, or even what this one will end up like. So far, Christians are safe, but it wouldn't take much for things to turn, the tide to turn. So be wary of it. But what we need to do in the meantime is we must pray. We must stay faithful. We need to start sharing our faith. We need to stop this sitting around expecting other people to do what we have been commanded to do from God's word. And look, until we start doing that, we're just going to see the same thing right here. And I pray that it doesn't happen in my lifetime or my children's lifetime. But, only God knows. But anyhow, that's what I had on my mind today. In fact, I've been thinking about it for several days, actually, and just couldn't wait to have the time to do this podcast. I'm having to take my break time to do this today. But anyhow, I hope you've had a good week and looking forward to this weekend. Hope to do a few things outside if it's not raining. I believe the temperature is still going to be good. And of course, church Sunday. Very excited about that. And hope you are too. And if you belong to a church, you better be there if you're physically able to be. If you don't belong to a church and you live here in the Knoxville area, come give us a visit at 201 Bernard Avenue, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37917. And we're right across from the big military cemetery downtown, right there on Bernard, just off Central Avenue Pike. Very easy to get to, and we'd love to have you. I'll save a seat for you. I'll even let you sit on the front pew because there ain't nobody else sitting there. They're all in the back. Oh, well, that's for another podcast. But anyhow, this is Brother Byron, and I'm out.